What if I told you that your struggle with lust, the fire you've been trying to suppress in silence, was never a sign of weakness, but a signal of your calling? What if I told you that your battle is not random, it's targeted, that the temptations coming for you aren't just natural urges, they're tactical distractions, weapons, assigned to pull you away from who you were always meant to become? You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet heaviness in your chest, that strange sense that you're different from other men. You try to blend in, but something inside you doesn't let you. You've tried to silence it, tried to numb it, but it always returns. That whisper. You were chosen, and deep down, you know it's true. You were never meant to waste your strength, never meant to bow to urges that strip you of your clarity, your voice, your authority. Every time you say no to temptation, every time you rise above lust instead of kneeling to it, you are not just resisting sin. You are being refined. You are being shaped into something sacred, something hell fears and heaven watches, because this isn't just about self-control. It's about purpose. It's about spiritual fire. And only those who are called to carry something eternal will understand the weight of this battle. When a man begins to abstain from casual sex, from mindless pleasure, from secret cycles of release, he doesn't just become celibate. He becomes dangerous. His posture changes. His presence shifts. His mind quiets. His words start to carry weight, even in silence. Not because he's perfect, but because he's whole. He's no longer fractured by lust. He's no longer leaking his power into shadows. He's no longer begging the world to feed what God told him to master. And after 90 days, something begins to happen. Something the world can't explain, but the spirit realm can't ignore. Heaven starts whispering your name. Hell starts adjusting its plans, and earth starts taking notice. Not because of your image, but because of your aura. This isn't a detox. It's a rebirth, and if you're hearing this now, if you've made it to this message without skipping, without scrolling, then you already know. This isn't for everyone. This is for the men who are ready to stop performing and start walking in real authority. If something deep inside you just woke up, if you feel the weight of this message in your chest, comment 99 below. Not just as a number, but as a declaration. The old cycle ends with me. And if your soul recognizes this frequency, subscribe now. Not just to follow a channel, but to stay connected to a voice that reminds you who you are when the noise tries to make you forget. Let's begin. You've been told that your energy is physical, that it's just fuel, that it's about calories, testosterone, drive, that your urges are natural and should be released, like steam from a boiling pot. But what if I told you that was a lie designed to keep you spiritually disarmed? What they never taught you is this: your sexual energy is sacred. It's not meant to be wasted. It's meant to be directed, focused, protected every time you release it without meaning, through masturbation, lustful habits, or meaningless encounters. You're not just losing fluid. You're leaking command. You're draining clarity. You're pouring out the very essence of your authority. You may not feel it right away, but little by little your fire dims, your mind gets foggier, your purpose begins to blur, and then you wonder why your prayers feel empty, why your presence feels light, why people no longer listen when you speak. It's because you're walking around with a fractured spirit. But here's the secret. When you stop giving your power to pleasure, your essence begins to return to you. Your voice deepens, not in tone, but in weight. Your gaze becomes still, not cold, but grounded. You walk into a room and things feel different. People notice, not because you're loud, but because you're present. You've stopped leaking, and now your power is concentrating. This isn't about being religious. This is about becoming whole, becoming dangerous again. The kind of man hell hopes never wakes up. And when you begin to store that energy, not suppress it, but transmute it, you unlock a different kind of power. A fire that doesn't just burn. It builds. It builds vision. It builds discernment. It builds inner stillness, the kind of stillness that breaks chains just by existing. That's why abstinence isn't weakness. It's warfare. Because every system in this world is designed to make you forget this truth. To keep you chasing pleasure, so you never walk in power. To keep you drained, so you never carry weight. To keep you addicted, so you never become who you were born to be. But now you know. You were never meant to release casually. You were meant to carry intentionally. This is the beginning of your return. The return of your strength, your clarity, your inner fire. They never told you this, because if you ever reclaimed it, you'd become unstoppable. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Something begins to shift. Not on the outside, but deep within. After 90 days of sexual abstinence, you're no longer just resisting impulses. You're reclaiming dominion. You're no longer surviving temptation. You're walking in a different atmosphere. This is not just a reset, it's a rebirth. Your body starts to speak a new language. It becomes calmer, more focused. Your heartbeat slows down. Your nervous system stops bracing for dopamine hits. You breathe differently, deeper, more present. And while the world might not applaud this change, the spirit realm can't ignore it, because now your essence holds weight. People feel it, not because you say something, but because your energy precedes you. Doors start opening that were once sealed, not because you pushed them, but because your energy finally matches their frequency. And here's what no one expects. Your desires change. Not just what you want, but what you tolerate. You stop settling for shallow conversations. You begin to crave depth. You begin to seek silence, not as isolation, but as sacred space. Your mind sharpens. What used to distract you now disgusts you. You see the trap in the temptation. You no longer have to convince yourself to say no. Your spirit says it for you. This is the stage where lust loses its grip. Not because it disappears, but because you've grown too large for it to hold. And now your walk becomes different. You're not anxious. You're not desperate. You're not scanning the room looking for affirmation. You've been filled from within, and nothing external can compete with that kind of alignment. But there's more. Your voice gains gravity, not louder, but heavier. Each word you speak begins to carry echo. You begin to hear God again, not as a distant voice, but as a knowing, a quiet certainty in your chest that guides your every step. This is when the world around you starts to feel surreal. You notice patterns unfolding, numbers repeating, doors opening, people aligning. Coincidence? No, it's calibration. Because what you've just done in 90 days isn't detox, it's construction. You're not just withholding, you're being rebuilt from the inside out. And that construction isn't just for your benefit. It's for assignment, it's for mission, it's for legacy. But here's the truth. This stage is sacred, but it's fragile. Because once your power begins to rise, so do the tests. And most men fall not because they weren't strong, but because they didn't realize they were being watched. By heaven, by hell, by destiny itself. So what happens after 90 days? You don't just become different. You become dangerous. And in the next phase of your journey, the battle won't be against lust alone. It'll be against who you used to be trying to come back. There is a moment in every chosen man's life when the fog lifts, when you stop confusing dopamine with destiny, when silence no longer feels empty, it feels like home. It doesn't happen with thunder. It doesn't come with lightning bolts. It arrives quietly, like sunlight after a long, sleepless night. And suddenly you begin to see. At first, it's subtle. Colors appear richer, voices sound clearer. Even time itself seems to slow down, as if eternity is brushing against your day. But this is not just perception. This is awakening. Because for years, maybe your entire life, your mind was hijacked, not by sin, but by noise. Sexual lust is just the surface. Beneath it lives a darker force. Mental fragmentation. Every image you absorbed, every empty release, every stolen moment of pleasure fractured your mind. Your focus scattered, your memory weakened, your intuition silenced, and most dangerously, your vision blurred. You couldn't finish what you started. You lost passion for your calling. You couldn't hear God clearly, not because he was silent, but because the static was deafening. But now, that static is gone. You see people differently. You sense motives without words. You look at your past and finally understand why some doors closed, why certain people left, why some prayers were delayed. Because the version of you back then wasn't ready to build what you were asking for. But now you see patterns where there used to be confusion. You connect spiritual dots that once felt random. You understand the why behind your pain. This clarity isn't just mental, it's prophetic. It's not about intellect, it's about sight. You don't just read scripture anymore. You feel it breathe. You don't just pray to speak, you listen to respond. Your instincts are no longer primal, they're divine, and make no mistake, the enemy sees this too. Because a man with clarity is dangerous. He can no longer be manipulated. He cannot be lured by shallow pleasures. He is no longer a follower. He's a seer. In ancient times, seers were feared more than warriors. Because while soldiers could take cities, seers could shift nations. That same spirit is returning to you. And it didn't come from trying harder. It came from letting go of lust, of distraction, of the lie that you were powerless. Now your thoughts carry power. Your silence carries weight. Your attention becomes sacred. And what's most powerful of all, you no longer need to be understood, because you finally understand yourself. And when a man reaches that level of clarity, his life begins to align with precision, because now he doesn't follow the world. He follows frequency, and frequency never lies. Not all battles are fought in front of people. Some of the most powerful victories happen in silence, when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating. This is where spiritual authority is born. Because when a man abstains, truly abstains, not out of shame, not out of guilt, but out of reverence, the heavens begin to watch. You're not just saying no to lust. You're saying yes to sacred alignment. You're telling the spirit realm, I am ready to carry what others only talk about. And that message echoes louder than any sermon. Here's the secret. Your private decisions have public consequences in the spirit. The authority you walk in tomorrow is forged by the sacrifices you make today, when no one is looking, because heaven doesn't crown performance. Heaven crowns obedience. And when God sees a man deny himself in secret, he doesn't just approve, he authorizes. He gives weight to your voice, power to your prayers, discernment to your instincts. Suddenly your words shift atmospheres. Not because you're louder, but because you carry the weight of someone who died to flesh and lived. This is what most men never experience, because it costs everything. It costs convenience, it costs comfort, it costs the ego that wants to be seen and applauded. But what you gain in return cannot be bought, mimicked, or faked. You begin to notice something strange. Your presence enters a room before your body does. People feel you before you speak. They respond to a frequency they can't explain. Why? Because your vessel is full, not with lust, not with scattered energy, but with fire. You're no longer leaking. You're storing. You're not reactive. You're consecrated. And the spirit realm sees that angels move when you move. Demons notice when you rise. Not with chaos, but with calculated reverence. They don't fear your volume. They fear your vibration. Because you didn't just turn your back on sin. You turned your life into a signal. And here's where it gets deeper. The authority you're building now is not for applause. It's for assignment. It's for legacy. It's for the future bloodlines attached to your obedience. God doesn't waste the man who offers himself in silence. He sends him places no one else is equipped to go. Not because he's perfect, but because he's prepared. You're becoming that man. And it all started the day you said, "This war is worth it. This sacrifice is holy. This silence is sacred." So, if no one else sees it, if no one else claps, if no one else understands, heaven does. And heaven has already started taking notes. There's a moment in every chosen man's journey where his silence starts making noise. His presence turns, heads, his essence is felt, and suddenly, the world starts noticing. Doors open, eyes follow, compliments increase. Respect multiplies, but so does the danger, because recognition, while it feels like reward, can easily become a trap, a sweet-smelling bait for the ego that once lay dormant. This is the phase where the devil doesn't come with chains. He comes with applause, with smiles, with validation, and it feels good. Finally, someone sees your glow. Finally, they feel your weight. But here's the danger. Recognition can awaken the very pride, your consecration buried. And if you're not grounded, you'll start confusing divine favor with public approval. That's when you begin to loosen, to compromise, to step slightly out of alignment. Not all at once, just enough to feed the version of you that craves to be known, instead of staying hidden in the will of God. But here's the truth. The world won't tell you. Visibility is not the same as validation. Just because they see you doesn't mean heaven sent them. Just because they admire you doesn't mean they're aligned with your future. The enemy is strategic. And when he can't seduce you with lust, he'll try to seduce you with praise. He'll dress distraction as admiration. He'll send attention in the form of affection. And if your spirit is not alert, you'll think you're rising, when, in truth, you're slowly drifting. This is why the chosen must stay rooted in purpose, not platform, because the more you elevate, the more seductive the counterfeit becomes. Fame will knock. Charisma will be complimented. Even spiritual authority will be celebrated. But if you mistake the crowd for confirmation, you'll start performing for applause instead of walking by assignment. God doesn't need you famous. He needs you faithful. He doesn't anoint you to be admired. He anoints you to carry his fire, even if the fire burns quietly. So the question is, can you stay grounded when everyone starts looking up to you? Can you remain hidden in obedience when the world wants to pull you onto a stage you're not meant to stand on? Not every invitation is divine. Not every spotlight is sacred. Some are distractions in disguise. This is the hour where you must double down on discernment. When recognition comes, don't rise. Root. Don't become impressed by your own glow. Return to the quiet place. The place where the oil was first poured. The place where your authority was born in private. Because the moment you begin to believe that you are the source of the light dims. But if you can resist the need to be seen, you will carry power that can't be stolen. Because your identity was never built on applause, it was forged in fire. This is what sets the chosen apart. They don't get drunk on attention. They remain anchored in assignment. Let them look, let them speak, let them wonder. But you stay in position. Because elevation without sanctification is a setup. But when you're rooted, no platform can corrupt you. Your rise becomes holy, and your influence becomes untouchable. You began this journey thinking it was about control, maybe about breaking a habit, maybe even about pleasing God or avoiding shame. But now, if your spirit has been awakened even slightly, you realize the truth runs deeper, infinitely deeper. This was never about controlling lust. This was always about reclaiming dominion. Dominion over your mind, over your choices, over your soul. You weren't called to be a slave to your instincts. You were called to rule them. And that calling, it came long before the addiction, long before the confusion, long before the world tried to seduce your greatness into silence. This is not behavior modification. This is soul resurrection. You've remembered what was hidden, you've awakened what was sleeping. And now that you've tasted clarity, you'll never be able to live in confusion again, because once your eyes have seen the truth, they can't unsee it. Once your spirit has stood in alignment, it won't settle for fragments. You thought you were resisting pleasure, but you were actually resurrecting purpose. Every battle you fought in silence was seen by the one who called you in secret. He saw every night you almost gave in, every prayer you whispered through clenched teeth, every moment your hands trembled but held the line. And every time you chose him instead of impulse, he added weight to your voice, fire to your presence, and power to your authority. You are not who you were 90 days ago. You are not even who you were yesterday. Because in the realm of the spirit, time bows to alignment. And when alignment is found, a moment becomes a lifetime of transformation. Let that settle in your bones. This isn't about what you stopped doing. It's about who you allowed yourself to become. You've made space within yourself, and now that space has become a throne for something holy. You walk with a different scent now, not cologne, not charm, but oil. The kind only produced in crushing. The kind that angels recognize and hell respects. And yes, there's a reason the fire intensified near the end. There's a reason temptation became more subtle, more tailored, more harmless. Because when a man reaches alignment, he becomes too costly to be attacked directly. So the enemy comes soft, with comfort, flattery, timing, and open doors. But you didn't bow. And now, you've crossed over. You don't just carry light, you are light. And here's something I want you to do. Not for me, but for you. If you know deep down this cycle has ended, if you feel something sacred has shifted in your soul, type 99 in the comments. Let it be your covenant. Let it be your line in the sand. Because 9 is the number of finality. And repeating it declares, this season is closed. I am no longer who I used to be. That simple number can become a spiritual symbol, a sign between you and heaven that the old you is buried, and the chosen one now walks forward. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not just for more videos, but because your soul is seeking alignment, and this space was created to sustain it. What's coming next requires a man who refuses to forget who he is becoming. Now breathe. Let the silence surround you, not as emptiness, but as evidence. You've made it through the fire, and you didn't lose yourself. You found yourself. You are not chasing healing anymore. You are walking in wholeness. You are not resisting identity. You are wearing it. You are not begging for God's attention. You are trusted with His presence. So walk now, not for recognition, not for applause, not for reaction. Walk as a signal. Walk as a witness. Walk as one who was called, tested, refined, and now crowned.